Are you and your partner stuck in a rut? Has that flame that was once a raging inferno diminished to nothing but slowly dying embers? Well then, a romantic getaway to Lover's Paradise Crystal Lake could be just what you need. Throw your cares and clothing aside for a dip in the lake. Meet up with local singles to add some spice to your life. Show how deep your love is by fighting off the resident serial killer who mistakes your sweet sensuality as an act of aggression.
Sex equals death. Okay.
But before you book your trip, be sure to watch the following instructional video that lays out the various rules required to pull through your weekend stay in Crystal Lake and ensure your relationship really has what it takes, making you each other's final girl and boy. So hold on to your butts as we do a deep dive and figure out the rules for surviving Friday the 13th, Part 4, Sexcapades. Wait, what's that, baby video producer? Sorry, I was just informed that it's actually called Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
It's the last one!
You fucking sure about that?
Before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's have a quick look back at the rule list as it currently stands after 3 installments, with 2 rules way ahead in double digits. After Part 4, though, 1 rule is going to have quite a lead on all the others.
I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with cock.
Starting things off, we have Crystal Lake coroner Axel, who has a penchant for eating his meals off of fresh corpses and watching the second most questionable workout video from the 80s. Unfortunately for him, he decides to break rule number 1, keep it in your pants, when he decides to have a bit of the old in and out in the same room as Jason, which is obviously a one-way ticket to a slit throat. Sorry, Axel, but hey, at least you always have your job on the police force to fall back on.
It's good to be back.
The other half to this rule-breaking duo is Nurse Morgan, who for whatever reason finds this pickup line very appealing.
I don't believe you, Axel.
On a personal note, I tried this one in real life, and these were the results. Had she only stuck to doing her nursely rounds, she could have avoided a stabbing from Mrs. Voorhees' baby boy. Goodbye, Nurse Morgan, we hardly knew thee. Next, we have the appropriately named Hitchhiker, who breaks one of the lesser violated rules in the series, number 2, do not hitchhike. She should have learned from Annie in the original Friday and only gotten to where she needed to be via the power of her own feet.
If I was going somewhere, I was running.
That poses an interesting question. Who would win in a foot race, Gump or early Jason? Answers on a postcard. Best answer gets a free widget. The first of Part 4's punk teens to bite the dust is Sam and Paul. Not much interesting to say about these two, as they are guilty of breaking rule number 1, but they are also part of the overall addition of a new rule. Remember way back in Part 2 when I threatened to add a rule against dancing? Well, look at all these degenerates slowly shuffling their feet towards oblivion. I'm clearly left with no choice but to outlaw it with new rule number 11, stay off the dance floor. Which leads us right into next victim, Terry. No Tina. No, fuck me, I hate twins. Check my notes right quick. Okay, Terry is the next to meet her maker. She's already guilty of breaking our new rule edition, but she also partakes in some beer chugging, making her a double rule breaker with number 5, stick with Shirley Temples. Some may say that a little dancing and a little chorus don't equal a spearing through the back punishment, but I say if you play with fire, you're gonna get burned. Oh, Mama Jarvis, what could you have possibly done wrong? At a cursory glance, you seem to be a great mom with no real flaws. You know, other than not getting your kids out of Dodge while there's a psychopathic axe murderer running around. That aside, though, what actual rules did she break? Only the worst of them all, rule number 8, be nice to animals. While Trish and Tommy are off in town, she was responsible for looking after Gordon. And what does she do? Only leaves the dog outside during the storm of the century. That is a good puppy who doesn't deserve to be left out in the cold, pouring rain. As far as I'm concerned, she got whatever punishment Jason ended up giving her.
Burn her. Burn her as a witch.
Next up is Jimmy, or as he is better known as Crispin, working on an entirely different plane of acting from everyone else in this movie, Glover. Yes, he is guilty of breaking rule number 1 with Terry. No, Tina. No. Fuck me, yes, Tina. But I know what you are here for, Internet, and I'm going to give you exactly what you want because I'm a man of the people and I provide. Here it is, every last second of Jimmy dancing.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Though after all those bitchin' dance moves, did he really deserve to die this brutally and get his body that mutilated? I've never really thought so. Okay, I swear I got it this time. Terry is dead, so this is Tina, who we already know is guilty of being a triple rule breaker with drinking, sex, and dancing. But what I find curious is her method of death. Cue it up, baby producer. Okay, and now here is a part later in the movie featuring Final Girl Trish. Is there really that big a difference? One lived, one died. I know I never went to one of them big city colleges and got me one of them there Master of Science certificates, but that there is not much of a variance in my opinion. Side note, a shout out to the fine people over at Dead Meat Wiki for introducing me to the word defenestrate, which means to throw someone out of a window. So kids, be sure to chalk that one down in your memory banks for any future spelling bees.
Country of origin?
Little pig boy comes from the dirt.
And now we are on to victim number 10 with Ted, who, personally speaking, is one of the most unsufferable characters in the entire Friday franchise. Not only is he a quadruple rule breaker, but he also will not stop using a certain phrase over and over and over again.
You're a dead fuck. You dead fuck. Dead fuck. Not now, dead fuck.
Absolutely no one is going to miss this character over Thanksgiving. Jason, I salute you for your public service. Moving on quickly, we have Doug and Sarah, and guess what rule they broke? These are more of the bland teenagers whose most memorable qualities are simply in the ways that they died. But boy, oh boy, what a way to go. Then we have Rob. Yeah, we're going to have to talk about Rob, who incidentally is the brother of Sanja from Part 2, who inspired the new rule, stay off the dance floor. He came to Crystal Lake with the sole intention of tracking and killing Jason in an act of revenge over his sister being taken from him. Chronologically speaking, this is only a handful of days after his sister was killed. There is not a lot of time for Rob to be doing all this research and come to the conclusion that this kid who supposedly drowned from decades before was responsible for his sister's death. My best guess, Ted, who lived through the events of Part 2, was friends with Sandra and familiar with the lore of the Crystal Lake area. I suppose it's plausible that Ted filled in the dots for Rob on his sister's death. But let's ignore all of that. For shits and giggles, let's just say that you decide you're going to go vigilante and on the hunt for someone who has killed over 20 people in the span of a few days. What are you going to take with you? Rob decides that a machete, a small knife, and a hunting rifle, which he gets zero use out of because Jason breaks it. This is a clear violation of rule number 6, use your brain. Here's a quick idea of what I would be taking with me after visiting my Uncle Bob if I was going deep into the woods after a killer.
As definitely you.
To be honest, Rob is actually a double use your brain rule offender, as he just waltzes into a dark basement after it's pretty obvious that Jason has already been having his fun there. I'm willing to let this offense slide though, because without it, the world would not be as bright a place, because we have been blessed with one of the best moments in all of cinema.
Alright, let's review this one more time.
Which leaves us with two in siblings Trish and Tommy. Tommy toes the line with being a peeping Tom on Sam and Paul. I know that I counted it as a broken rule with Crazy Ralph, but Tommy is very much a kid here, and in my opinion, Jason doesn't punish children. So we're going to consider Tommy clean, just like his sister Trish, who does make a serious strategic mistake with that whole cornering herself and jumping out a window move, otherwise puts up a pretty good fight. Not quite on the level of Jenny and Chrissy in installments past, but still final girl worthy. Time to tally up the offenses for Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Well, okay, final for about a year, but fine, whatever. In this installment, we clearly have a winner with 8 offenses in Keep It In Your Pants, and coming in at number 2, Stay Off the Dance Floor at 6 offenses. Stick with Shirley Temples at 3 is our bronze winner, and everything else is either 1 or 0, so negligent. Now on to the franchise totals as a whole, and as one might think, rule number 1, Keep It In Your Pants, is starting to run away with it. Rule number 4, No Hanging with Puff at 12, but numbers 5, 6, and 11 are slowly creeping up. Will all the Jimmy Jamba smokers out there be able to hold on, or will the other rules creep up on them? I guess we're going to find out on next week's installment, which also happens to be the most controversial in the entire series. But until then, bye! Have fun storming the castle!